with the name Cold Closers, it was probably about 4 years or so ago. I remember it very well. I was working as a business development manager for a local company here in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I was providing some, what I considered to be at that time, some sales, account management type of support for this organization. And I really come to a place in my tenure with the company after about a year and a half that I was really looking for some other options. I was really looking to do some different things. Now, keep in mind, this was a very boutique-like lead generation, cold calling organization. So we had a handful of individuals that were working on the phone. We had a handful of clients. The company, ironically, had been around for quite some time. So we had really gained a name and gained some recognition in the marketplace based upon the method and process that we utilized for lead generation. So I won't say the name of the organization, but once again, I really come to a point where I felt like it was time to make a separation. So although we were having some success, and I will add that, because we were very successful based on the method and process, and this organization is still in business today, and they continue to be very successful based upon what the founder and president of the organization has set in place. So, needless to say, back to my story. Cold Closers came about as a result of what I felt would characterize my value add for my daily responsibilities and duties, my activities as a cold caller. So, not only that, but it was just a very cool name, and that's really what I was going for, to be completely honest with you. I was going for something that sounded really cool, really catchy, something that would catch someone's attention. First off, I was conducting cold calling activities. I was calling into organizations, and it was an unannounced call. I was uninvited, per se, and I was looking to identify opportunities to set appointments, qualified meetings, whether they be conference calls or face-to-face meetings, for our clientele, which were high technology companies. So I'm talking to individuals that are at very high levels within these organizations, C-level executives as we call them, in technology, in engineering, in finance, accounting, management. So these were, once again, executives, C-level type individuals. So I was cold calling, as it were, picking up the phone, dialing a telephone number based upon some very comprehensive call guide scripting, but really guides for a discussion that we would have with a decision maker. I was calling into these organizations, once again unannounced, uninvited, and I was looking to qualify opportunities based upon the solutions that our clients provided. Now, we were using what's called a solution teleprospecting model, very similar to solution selling. So we were identifying pain points and critical issues, and we were uncovering or developing impacts, direct and indirect impacts, and the results of these impacts. So we were building truly a case based upon providing a very high-level solution. And once again, we were working with complex, in a lot of cases, technology organizations. And at that time, complex technology was ERP, supply chain, process management, business process management, change management applications, all sorts of different technology tools, products, and services. So anyway, back to how I came up with cold closers. So I was cold calling. That was the first part of it. And I'm literally sitting at my desk in between calls and just kind of in a dreamy state thinking of what a really cool sounding name would be that would characterize exactly what I do on a day-to-day basis. And once again, the value add that I bring to organizations. Because if you recall, just kind of back up a little bit, I was looking for ways that I could kind of separate and be very independent. I've always been very entrepreneurial minded, so all of my business endeavors and pursuits have been to do my own thing, to be independent, to be my own man, to be a self-starter, all those sorts of things. So that's obviously why I like to work in sales environments. Now, the other aspect of cold closers is the closer part. So I really felt like I had some capabilities, some skills that I had developed over time, not necessarily innate talent or anything along those lines, because everything that I knew and understood in terms of how to effectively sell, or shall I say share with an organization, share products, services, solutions with organizations, had been developed based upon a lot of training, method and process, and skills development, and understanding communication and things along those lines, understanding interpersonal relationships. So I've been trained in sales, so I was very effective in sales. So I felt like I was a closer. But that wasn't the justification for cold closing. I was cold calling, and that's where the cold came from. But ultimately, I began to realize that although I was just setting appointments and qualifying interest, that there was some level of closing that was taking place in every discussion that I would have. And that's kind of how cold closers really became what it is today, and how cold closing, the method and process, became what it is today, because I realized that at every opportunity that I had to speak with someone, to leave a voicemail, to send an email, to have some sort of interaction with an individual, I was closing on something. So whether I was discussing a product or service or a solution with a prospect and getting them to the next step in terms of receiving some information, or receiving a call back, or receiving a call from our client, or taking a conference call, or going to a webinar, or actually taking a meeting with our client, I was closing. So I was doing these things, incremental closing, shall I say, throughout the prospecting cycle. And once again, I still felt like I was closing, because these were aspects of the sales process that had an immediate action. So some sort of next step action is what I was trying to achieve. So in starting out, just to have a very cool sounding name, a very catchy name, a very recognizable name on the web for my organization, I really began to develop this method and process and this new way of thinking, this new understanding of cold calling in general. And that's how cold closing came about. Now, cold closing didn't come about right at the beginning. Once again, I was looking for a cool name. I'd already had a legal structure formed. I had an LLC, Blue Enterprises Limited. I had that formed, and that had been on paper probably for about 5 or 6 years. So I was really looking for something that was going to get the point across, something that was really going to characterize what I do every day and the value add, once again, that I feel I bring to an organization. So cold closers was really nothing more than just a catchy, cool name that I felt that people would be able to remember and would be able to attribute to what I do as a cold caller, but at the same time understand the value add that I bring as a sales closer. So that's kind of how cold closers came to be.